I'm Melanie Johnson along with my co-host Jenn Foster. We are both 13-time best-selling authors. We've published over 2,500 books and made all of our authors #1 bestsellers. We own Elite Online Publishing. If you want to become a best-selling author, look us up at eliteonlinepublishing.com. Now, welcome to the podcast that shares secrets from top industry experts that show you how to get lasting success and results. This is the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hey everyone, this is Melanie Johnson Jenn Foster. Welcome to our wonderful, amazing podcast again. We have great stuff for you today. Hey Jenn, how are you doing today?
Today is an awesome day.
It is. Every day is an awesome day. You just have to choose to make it that, right? And you know what? We have a fabulous guest, speaking of that, who knows how to make everything awesome, I'm going to say, just talking to him briefly before the show. So we're going to touch on some things like, have you ever been paralyzed by the past, by doubt or fear, and want to know how to overcome that? Are you looking for ways to get motivated so you don't really fall flat on your face? Have you struggled with your fear a lot of times or trying to refuel yourself? Let me tell you, in the morning sometimes, even this morning, I'm like, dang, if I could just stay in bed. Is it Saturday yet? I just want to have an extra 2 hours in here. So we're going to talk about some of that. And we are also going to talk about enjoying the journey while you're accomplishing those wonderful goals that you've set for yourself. Because so many times you're focused on the goal and it feels like work. But how do you enjoy the process every step of the way and make it wonderful? So Jeff Griffin is joining us today, and he is an expert at that. So get your pads ready, get your pencils ready, get your notes on your phone ready, because you are going to learn a lot today. Jeff, welcome. Thanks so much for coming today.
Melanie, thank you so much for having me. And Jen, I appreciate the invitation. I'm telling you, I'm honored. I'm like a thorn amongst roses. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for being here, Jeff. So tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us your story of how you became this amazing speaker traveling around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, a lot of people will call me a motivational speaker, but I like to think of myself as a transformational speaker, to where we come in there and do more than just motivate and do the rah-rah things and whatnot, but to really give them an emotional impact that will put them in that mindset to help them do more in 6 weeks than they can do in 6 months. Mm-hmm. The problem is a lot of times when you are, when you've experienced that, you kind of go back to your old ways. You're like, oh, wow, that was amazing. I'm going to do so much better tomorrow. And then you wake up and you're like, maybe tomorrow. And and so you need to have a little bit more than just that emotional impact that takes place. And so we've put together some tools and some skills that have 20 years of research and practice and experience and duplication that we're able to give people that are repeatable. It just happens over and over and over again. And so I love to say that I am the best unknown speaker you have never heard of yet.
All right, so I want to get right to the learning part. I'm like, okay, give me those tools, give me those skills. So walk us through some of those top skills and tools that are in your toolbox that you give to people when you're speaking.
Yeah, and here's what's interesting, Melanie. I love that, and thank you so much for that question. And most people they want to go straight to the result. Give me the result. I want to produce. I want to be 10x. I want to be like the top-notch guy, right? And
give me my checklist. What do I have to do? 1, 2, check it off.
You're like, check. And what I've learned is if we give people these skills and we give people these tools and they have not worked on their mindsets, none of it matters. And so what I want to do here is I want to give some tools that will help you with your mind and will help you with your perspective. I went from 6'1" to 4'7" overnight. I was
that story.
Yes, absolutely. And I will. And so I went from 6'1" to 4'7". I was a college football player at the time. In between seasons, I had fallen 40 feet and I'll get into that. And I had stuck the landing perfect if I was a gymnast, but I wasn't. And so I was a painter. I came down and my legs came up, my back came down, and my L1 vertebrae exploded inside me. And it changed my life instantly. My identity that I had wrapped around trying to be this collegiate football player was instantly gone. My dreams, right, of playing college football, my dreams of riding a motorcycle with a girl on girl on back. Because every time I saw a guy on a bullet bike, there was a girl on back. And I'm like, in small print, does it says girls included? And everyone's like, Griff, you really don't want a bike. You just want the girls. I'm like, you're right. So I'm thinking the chicks dig the wheels. And when I got in a wheelchair, I realized, you guys, that the chicks really do dig the wheels.
Love it.
And so I went from 6'1" to 4'7" overnight. And I was forced to look at things different.
Yeah.
Figuratively and literally. And I learned that different isn't always better, but better is always different.
Yeah.
And so if we want to make things better, we're going to have to think different. And it's taken me a while to get to that point. And it's been a long journey. But what's interesting here is I had an opportunity. I had a decision to make. And each and every one of us are going to be faced in life with a major setback or a difficult challenge. Mm-hmm. And how are we going to respond to those challenges? How are we going to deal with those problems? Because every problem under the sun has a solution or it has none. If there be one, hurry and find it. If there be none, never mind it. And so often we spend so much time on the challenges and the problems that we fail to see the solutions. Mm-hmm. And so, I had fallen 40 feet in my dreams. I was right next to this barn. I was looking up at the barn in this isolated field in southern Idaho, just north of the border of Utah, where I'm from. And I had a decision to make. I could stay down and wallow, as I like to call it, in that syrupy, sticky sauna of self-pity. Yeah. Or I can pick myself back up and dream new dreams. And looking back 20 years from now, it's easy to say, hey, dream new dreams. It's easy to say when you're outside of the situation, mm-hmm. Dream new dreams. But at the time, I went to that ugly place. I was depressed. I was discouraged. I was disappointed and angry. I shaking my fist at God and why me? Why, having this pity party. Yeah. And there was a question that changed my life, and we'll get to that question. But you asked, what are these tools and skills that are necessary? And so when I had an opportunity to sift through my broken back and shattered dreams, I discovered some flecks of gold. What's interesting, Jen and Melanie, is so often we're given these flecks of gold throughout our life, and we pass them by trying to search for those gold nuggets. Yeah. But if you gather these flecks of gold and collect them over time, you eventually have a bag full of gold that's just as worth as those gold nuggets.
It's just the small things.
Yeah, it is the small things. And what's interesting, it's the simple things that makes the biggest difference. Mm-hmm. And so if we can find the simplicity on the far side of complexity, we can go further, farther, and faster. And the key is, how do I find the simplicity on the far side of complexity? Yeah. And that's what I want to share. And that's what I share in my book, I'm Possible. And it's instead of chapters, we have mile markers. And because life is really this journey where we get to experience and enjoy life and hear, not just hear the music that sings in our soul, but we also get to orchestrate and conduct a song that others can hear as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you're just so awesome. I actually heard you speak at an event, and I can see behind you, those who are watching on YouTube, you've got a USA Olympian jersey behind you. Mm-hmm. So tell us, how did you get an Olympian medal? How did that happen? Like, that's just like the awesomest reaching goal that you could ever reach, I think. I mean, everyone wants to be an Olympian.
Yeah, you know what? People are like, oh, yeah, Paralympian is different than an Olympian. But I'm telling you right now that a lot of people don't realize this and know this, because, once I was given a life sentence to live life from a wheelchair, the doctors gave me a 0% chance of ever standing, walking, and moving again. They gave me a 0% chance of having kids. Like, that's the last function to go, the first to go, last to come back. Some people gave me a 0% chance of getting married, not because of my wheelchair, but just because of who I am. And, 20 plus years later, I've been married to the same woman. We have 4 beautiful kids. And what's interesting is, I don't know how I convinced her to say yes, but I do know how I convinced her to stay with me these last 23 years. And I do know how I was able to become a Paralympic athlete. And I do know how, somebody could be a world record winner. I have 2 Guinness Book of World Records. I'm a 4-time all-star MVP, and I was able to go, as you mentioned, to the Paralympics. And people don't know this, but there's over 2,000 wheelchair basketball players, and we have little junior teams. We've got varsity, junior varsity. We've got collegiate teams. We've got some elite basketball teams, and only 24 get to be invited to go try out in Colorado Springs in the Olympic Training Center. And I was fortunate enough to be one of the 24, and then they whittle it down 3 days later to just 12.
Wow.
And was fortunate enough to represent our country, go to Athens, Greece in 2004. It's beautiful to be there, to go to the Parthenon, to go to the location where, the games, the Olympic Games were, originated from, and to experience that and have that experience on the world stage. Because my dream was to play football in college, as I mentioned before, and play on the big stage. And I got to experience 2 downs, but I really didn't get to, experience what I envisioned would happen in life as well. And so absolutely, I know that people are like, okay, how do I do it? How do I become that Olympic athlete? How do I become that world record holder? How do I get myself back up after I've experienced a major setback or a difficult challenge?
Mm-hmm.
And really what we need to do is we need to develop a P-squared mindset.
So how do you develop that? So you're in that bad place. And for some people, it's the first time they've been in that bad place. And it could be at any age. Sometimes it happens when you're young, like you. Sometimes it happens not till you're 40 or 30, or not. Maybe if you're fortunate enough, not till you're 60 years old. And you've never been there. I went through divorce, and I remember people telling me, oh my gosh, I've gone through divorce. I can't get out of bed. My house is becoming a disaster. My kids are running amok because I can't function. I can't get my mind in that place. So how do you start to get your mind in that place so you can use the skills and do the things that you need to do? What are some of the steps you can do? And today people are running into that with, the economy is changing. You've got COVID going on. So where do we begin?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I was up 40 feet on some scaffolding. I had created this little foundation to hold me up. Mm-hmm. And because I cut corners, I learned for myself that cutting corners leads nowhere but down. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing that we need to understand, and we need to be very, very clear about is when the moment to perform has arrived, the moment for preparation has passed. And I don't think, I wasn't planning and preparing for this moment of when I'm falling down, right? I wasn't planning and preparing for 2020 to happen, where things were going great. And, 2019 was amazing. I had 60 speeches. I had tripled my revenue. 2020, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to decrease my speeches to 50 instead of 60, and I'm going to triple my revenue. And then March hits, and I didn't know that I was going to decrease my speeches, less than I was expecting. Right? Yeah, right. It's been 0 since March till now. It's been 0. But here's the deal: I am still going to triple my revenue. I still have 5.5 months to do that. I still have some time to do that. And because of what's happened in the past to prepare me for this moment, I am so much more prepared today than I was back when I fell 40 feet and broke my back. And I was so much more prepared at that time when I went to college. And here's the irony. Here I am telling people, don't quit. Just don't quit. You got to make just this commitment that you're never going to quit, and you got to develop this P-squared mindset. And here I am. I get an invitation from the legendary Hall of Fame coach inviting me to come down and play at the school that I've always wanted to play when I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. And I was invited to come play to a school where people are like, Griff, you can't play football in college. You're too short. You can't play football in college. You're too slow. You can't play football in college because you're too white. I'm like, okay, I get that. Too short, too slow, too white. Yeah, okay, absolutely. But what's interesting is by the time we're 17 years old, we hear that word 150,000 times. I can't. It's debilitating. It's poisonous. It's limiting. And as soon as we think that we can't, we're absolutely right. Our mind accepts that as the only answer. And then we're not able to go out there and find the solutions. And so the first step that we need to do is we need to flip the switch and reframe how we see things. And again, if you're not used to doing that, because you know what, if you're like me, you're like, nah, I'm not a positive person. I'm not a social person. And the thing is if I'm going to be on stage, I've got to be a social person. I've got to be out there. I've got to be an extrovert, at times. And so if we can just flip the switch, instead of always telling ourselves, because we've been listening to that for years and years and years, and our programming is such that, other people place their limitations on our possibilities. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult not to listen to the critics, especially when the greatest critic is you yourself. And so what we need to do, and we need to begin by changing, just simply thinking that I can't, to I can, eventually. I can, someday. I can, if I keep on going. I can, if I just don't quit. I can, if I get some help. There's so many other solutions out there if we'll just simply change the way we look at things. And it's more difficult. It's easier said than done, and it's really difficult. And so you might need some help. You really do. We need some help in doing this. And so many times we're like, I'll just do this on myself. I'll just do this on my own. But if we're listening to ourselves and keep doing the same thing that we've always done before, we're going to continue to get the same results, which is the definition of insanity. And so I know it sounds so simple, but it really is just flipping the switch and reframing the way we look at things. And just like any other skill, if you practice doing it, and we can teach you how to do that, we can show you how to do that. And with anything else, with the the possibility principle, the P-squared mindset, that will help you do that. And so if you're not practicing it right now, when that happens, you're going to need a hand up. Mm-hmm. We all need a hand up, not a hand out, but we all need a hand up. And so absolutely, we've got to prepare for our moments that could be our finest hour.
I love that you said you got to have help, because a lot of times you can flip that switch and be like, okay, I can. But eventually you're going to tell yourself you can't again. And you do need that help, right? You need someone else. Mm-hmm. It's not always, and maybe it's not a person, maybe it's a different kind of help, but there's always something outside of you that's going to help you. Yeah. And I just think that you gotta acknowledge that, because you can flip the switch and you can be positive all the time, but eventually you're going to be telling yourself something, in the back of your mind that you need other people to help you with, or you need the tools, or you need the training, or you need the practice like you're talking about.
Absolutely. And I love that. In fact, what I want to do is I want to give those people some help right now. I'm going to give you a hand up, not a hand out, a hand up. All right. And so if you will text the word possible to 801-316-8689, I'm going to give you the possibility principle for free. And again, this right here is huge. I'm telling you right now that we don't realize how powerful it is, and it is worth more. It is worth more money than I've ever made so far, and it's really at the foundation. It's really at the foundation of creating a mind, a Fort Knox mind, that holds your goal, that holds that flexible goal, that will help you through these difficult times and these major setbacks. And this possibility principle is basically, that which we persist on doing becomes easier for us to do. Mm-hmm. Reading is reading, writing is writing, being positive is being positive, and finding opportunities is finding opportunities. Getting yourself back up is just getting yourself back up. And so, but there's 5 beautiful blessings that come with the possibility principle, which develops into a P-squared mindset. And so, you know what? I just want to give that to you right now, because here's what's interesting. Whenever the pressure is on, whatever we've put in comes out. Mm-hmm. And so the pressure kind of illustrates and shows us what our nature is. I love fruit because it's true to its nature. If you apply pressure to an apple, juice comes out, but what kind of juice comes out? Apple juice. Now, pineapple juice doesn't come out, carrot juice doesn't come out. You grab an apple, you apply pressure, you're going to expect apple juice. Same with pineapple. You grab a pineapple, you apply pressure, boom, pineapple juice comes out. But human beings, we are not true to our nature. You apply pressure, and what comes out is what we put in. And that's not necessarily what we were created for. And so we need to renew the new you, the real you. And so, anyways, I cut you off. So I get so excited.
I interrupted you.
No, please go.
It reminds me of the Darren Harding example. He takes a big vase of glass of water, and it's all mucky, you know, and he says, this is what, if you're putting this in, then this is what you get. And so he starts pouring clean, clear water into it until it keeps overflowing until it's crystal clear again. So it's having those crystal clear, clean thoughts of those conversations. And I love the point that you make, because it's the conversations you're having in your head. Having changed the recording, like if you're telling yourself you can't, as you're saying, you need to say that I can and I will, and it's just putting that new recording in. Stop with that bad recording that you've got. Take it out, pull it out.
Absolutely. But as Jen was saying, it's difficult to do when you've been doing it for years.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I call it programming and poor programming. And there's pushback to it. What I always like to do to illustrate that is people are like, yeah, that's for you. Or that's for, for them. It's not for me. Well, no, again, being positive is being positive, being negative is being negative. What kind of programming have you been put into? Zig Ziglar says, get rid of that stinking thinking.
Yeah.
And so with this programming, whenever you try to do something new that you've never done before, there's going to be pushback. And I always like to illustrate this by saying, you know what, just grab your hands and interlock your fingers. And so hopefully if you're not driving, hopefully don't do this if you're driving, but you interlock your fingers and you're like looking down at it, you're like, okay, I'm comfortable. And I always like to ask, raise your hand if your left hand is on top of your right hand. Your left thumb, sorry, is your left, raise your hand if your left thumb is on top of your right hand. And that's
me.
And everyone else who raises their hand, I'm like, you're normal. Because that's how I do it. That's how we base normality is how we do things. And so then I'm like, okay, now I want you to just interlock your fingers the opposite, right? And then as soon as people do that, the first word that comes to their mind or the first thought is ooh, icky. There's just that pushback immediately. And so it's the exact same thing when it comes to new thinking.
Yeah.
There's pushback to our programming. It's like, no, that's not right. That's not right.
You got to practice it every day. Put Post-its all over, wherever you are.
Absolutely. On the fridge, whatever. I have it on my wrist. I call it my battle cry bracelet to remind me, because 1 degree.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between 1 degree? And it makes all the difference. A plane that goes from LA to New York and it's just off 1 degree ends up in Washington, D.C. or Boston, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big deal at the beginning, but eventually it's a huge deal. 1 degree, what's the difference between 211 degrees Fahrenheit and 212? Well, 211 is super, super hot, but 212 is boiling, and that creates steam. And what has steam done for our country and for our world? 1 degree is all it is. And so you don't have to do a ton of work. It's just 1 degree.
Well, I love your giving away the 4x4, I think you called it, or P squared. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, the possibility principle, the P squared mindset. The possibility principle helps you create a P squared mindset, which helps you with these setbacks, which helps you with these challenges, that helps you deal with the divorces, depression, and and all these other darkness and things that are out there.
To find the light.
Yes.
Jen, I can't hear you.
Tell us again the phone number to text possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you text possible, and by the way, if you mistext it, or you misspell it, I've got like different variations for you and whatnot. But if possible, if you text the word possible to 801-316-8689, we will send you that PDF. And there's just an invitation to do it for 21 days. 21 days creates a habit. 66 makes it automatic. And if you're going 66, why not keep on going? Yeah. And until it's actually finally shifted.
Switch. I love it. Well, we'll put that phone number in the show notes and on the YouTube description for those of you who are watching it there. But tell us where they can go to tell them your website that they can go find more information about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to griffinmotivation.com, Griffin, like the mythical beast, half lion, half eagle. I try to convince my wife that I'm mythical and a beast, and she's like, you're neither. You're neither mythical or a beast. So I'm like, well, one time. And I still think that. So griffinmotivation.com, there's the shop/shop. And because of your listeners, we're going to throw out a little promotion here. We're going to give some love. If you put the coupon code LOVE, we'll knock off 50% of any of the items that are on there. And awesome. If you get 2 books, we'll ship them to you for free. And we just want to help you guys develop that P-squared mindset, because I'm telling you, the first benefit that comes from developing that P-squared benefit, in my opinion, is it helps you develop a desire that matches up with your dreams.
Yeah.
Because we have conflicting desires, and most of us don't know what we want, and the majority of us don't know what we want. Yeah. There's only a few of us that know what we want, and so there's the biggest problem as well. Is we get so discouraged, we get so upset because we don't even know what we want, but we do know what we don't want. And the problem is we get what we focus on. Yeah. I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be, overweight. I don't want to be unhealthy. And you're like, okay, well, let's just flip the switch. Let's reframe things and figure out what you do want. Yeah. And so that's the first benefit that comes with the P-squared mindset is you get to develop that desire that matches up with your dreams. And when that happens, you begin to experience the unimaginable possibilities to create. You get to start seeing life in color instead of black and white. You get to experience life in a new, I wouldn't say dimension, but you see things differently, and things just come alive, and you're able to orchestrate and conduct the song that sings in your soul, and then other people get to listen to that beautiful melody.
I love it. I love it. All right, sign up for that right away. We want to thank you for coming today. And I forgot to say in the beginning, please subscribe. Look how inspired you got today. So every time you tune in, we have incredible people that are going to make your day better. They're going to inspire you, motivate you, educate you, and make your life and your world a better place that you can share with others. So share the podcast with other people and make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time. And if you're looking to write a book, remember to look Jen and I up at Elite Online Publishing. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Thanks, Jeff, for being here.
Thanks, ladies. Appreciate it.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.